Chapter entitled King Yayati Regains His Youth. Which verse is that? 25. Okay, so I'll read 24 and then we can repeat 25 together. Gate rajanin sadire tatrasma rudati pituhu nyavedayat tata sarvam uktam sarmishtaya kritam. Translation. Thereafter, when the learned king returned to his palace, Devayani returned home crying and told her father Sukracharya about all that had happened because of Sarmishta. She told how she had been thrown into the well but was saved by the king. Text 25. Please repeat. Durmana Bhagavan Kavyam Durmana Bhagavan Kavya Paurohityam Vigarhayam Paurohityam Viharhayam Stubam Vrittim Chakapotim Stuvam Vrittim Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat Duhitrasaya Yaupurat Durmana Bhagavam Kavya Paurohityam Viharhayan Stuvam Vrittim Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat Durmana Bhagavam Kavyam Paurohityam Viharhayan Stuvam Vrittim Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat. Durmana Bhagavan Kavya Durmana Bhagavan Kavya Paurohityam Viharhayam Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat Durmana Bhagavan Kavya Paurohityam Viharhayam Stuvam Vrittim Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat. Vaishnavis. Durmana Bhagavan Kavya Mohityam Viharhayam Stuvam Vrittim Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat. Durmana Bhagavan Kavya Paurohityam Viharhayam Stuvam Vrittim Chakapotim Duhitrasaya Yaupurat. Durmanaha, being very unhappy. Bhagavam, the most powerful. Kavyaha, Shukracharya. Parohityam, the business of priesthood. Viharhayam, condemning, Stuvam, praising, Vrittim, the profession, Cha, and Kapotim, of collecting grains from the field, Duhitra, with his daughter, Saha, he, Sukracharya, Yayao, went, Purat, from his own residence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As Sukracharya listened to what had happened to the Vayani, his mind was very much aggrieved, condemning the profession of priesthood and praising the profession of Unchavritti, collecting grains from the field. He left home with his daughter. Purport. When a Brahmana adopts the profession of a kapota or pigeon, he lives by collecting grains from the field. This is called Unchavritti. A Brahmana who takes to this Unchavritti profession is called first class because he depends completely on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and does not beg from anyone. Although the profession of begging is allowed for a Brahmana or sannyasi, one does better if he can avoid such a profession and completely depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for maintenance. Sukracharya was certainly very sorry that because of his daughter's complaint, he had to go to his disciple to beg some mercy, which he was obliged to do because he had accepted the profession of priesthood. In his heart, Sukracharya did not like his profession, but since he had accepted it, he was obliged to go unwillingly to his disciple to settle the grievance submitted by his daughter. Durmana bhagavan kavya parohityam viharhayam shtuvam vrittim chakapotim duhitrasaya yapurat. So first of all, I'd like to beg for your blessings and feel very grateful to be with you today and being able to speak on the Bhagavatam. It's a very important topic that is being discussed in this verse, in this section. Again, the Vayani is telling her father, Sukracharya, what had happened. And what had happened was, for those who had not been here for the previous days, was that Sukracharya and Sarmishta were bathing in a lake along with her friends, naked, and then Lord Shiva was passing by, and they rushedly, they came out of the lake and put their cloth on. And Sarmishta, who was the daughter of a king, put on by mistake the dress or the cloth of Devayani, who was a daughter of Sukracharya, a Brahmana. So both, they were fiery ladies. Prabhupada explains that the tendency for women is to fight over these things in the purport. And basically the Vayani was telling him, how are you there? You're a Kshatriya, how do you dare to put on my cloth? And Sarmishta, who was angry by nature, according to the Bhagavatam, she threw the Vayani naked into a blind well and left her there and went off with her cloth. So the Vayani was left there behind, naked, and then Yayati, who is the son of, who is the father of Yayati? It's Nahusha. Because we are hearing here about the dynasty. And actually, it all goes back that the question was raised, how was it that Yayati married Devayani, who was of lower caste? Because it's considered to be inauspicious that someone for a man from a lower caste married, or a Kshatriya, marries a Brahmani, or a girl Brahmana. So then the explanation was given that then this Yayati came and she saw her in the lake, in the well, naked. So he gave her his upper cloth and saved her. He just keeps moving. Thank you. Is it okay? Tell me if he goes. He just was moving before. So then Devayani, she said, well, this is an arrangement by Providence. You should become my husband. And then later on, immediately she went to see her father. Is he okay now? Yes? And then she told her father what had happened. And her father happened to be the guru of the father of Samishta. So he is condemning himself, or condemning the profession of priesthood. Having such kind of disciples, he has to now kind of go and settle the matter. And he is saying that actually better to be just completely dependent on the Lord. So one may wonder when we hear stories like this, how this leads to the message of the Bhagavatam. The message of the Bhagavatam is pure devotional service, is to ultimately bring us to the point of complete dependence on the Lord. And Prabhupada in the purport is making a very, very important point, and is that actually the more we depend on the Lord, the happier and the more peaceful we are, and the easier things are. The problem begins when we don't depend on Krishna. And what happens when we don't depend on Krishna, it means that we are seeing things disconnected from Krishna. And the example is there between Devayani and Sarmishta. How they were saying things. They didn't see Krishna in the picture. It was all based on their self, on their ego. My position, I am a Brahmana, I'm the daughter of a Brahmana, you're the daughter of a Kshatriya. Who are you anyway? They're basing everything on their own personal desire, personal sense gratification. Krishna is out of the picture. And this is what happens when actually we don't see things in connection with Krishna. We become absorbed in a wall of duality. Duality comes from that point, or actually not seeing the connection with the Lord. And when we become absorbed in duality, then the mind becomes very much agitated and disturbed and restless. And no matter what situation we may find ourselves in, we're always dissatisfied. Always. It's the trick of mano dharma. The religion of the mind, accepting, rejecting, accepting, rejecting. But on the other hand, when we bring Krishna into the picture, and basically we understand the reality, and the reality is that actually I am completely dependent on Krishna. Anyway, if I accept it or I don't accept it, the reality is that we are not in control. Krishna is in control. And if you think about it, it's a lot easier to remain peaceful when we understand that everything is taking place under Krishna's direction, under Krishna's supervision. And we can accommodate reality, and we can actually deal with the problems of life without being overly disturbed. So this is the essential message Prabhupada is drawing from this pastime. We see the contrast, Sarmishta. And even Sukracharya, he's saying, he's praising, in one sense you could say, he's praising, I should be depending more on Krishna. Or I should be depending, but, we hear later or before that Sukracharya, he was doing his service as a guru or as a priest in exchange of some remuneration. And that's why when he came, the pastime with Bali Maharaj, that, he could not offer him proper advice. Why? Because he was motivated. He wanted if Bali Maharaj will become poor and destitute, then who is going to maintain me? So it was a condition there. So even he's saying like this. So anyway, the point I'm trying to bring home to explain is that also this dependence on Krishna is not just something external. It's internal. It's external surrender. That is the things that we do every day. We may be chanting, we may come into Mangalarti, we may be doing so many austerities, but actually the internal surrender is just as important, if not more important. Those activities that we are doing, they are meant to bring us to that internal surrender, which is to remember Krishna. Smartatam satatam Vishnur Vismartavyo najatu chit Sarva vidhi nishedashyat eta yore vakinkara. That is explained that there are so many rules and regulations in the scriptures, but there is the key, the most important principle in the spiritual life is to always remember Krishna and to never forget him. And it says, Sarvi Vidhi Nisheda Sure. It says all other rules and other regulations are just servants of these two principles. And it's explained, that if we are following the rules and regulations without this purpose of actually remembering Krishna, then it's like niyamagraha, we become servants of the rule, not the servants of Krishna, not the servants of the principle behind. So therefore, we have to really kind of think about who am I doing this for, and how much I am actually depending on Krishna, how much I am seeing my situation in connection with Krishna at all times. It's a simple point, but it's like Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is very simple, but the application is very difficult. And we see in the Bhagavad Gita actually how Krishna at the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, he's saying that Chetasa Sarvakarmani Mayi Sanyasamat Para Buddhi Yogam Upashritya. Anyway, he says that in all activities, just depend upon me and work under my protection. In such consciousness, actually, you will cross over all the problems of life. So what is this? Depend upon Krishna. How does it manifest? Or what are the symptoms of someone who is depending on Krishna? Prabhupada explains in the purport to that verse that, one makes Krishna's instructions. One acts according to the instructions of Krishna, and is not attached to the result of those activities. Basically his focus is on pleasing Krishna, and is unaffected by profit or loss. He is not acting through false ego also. And he says that, and then Krishna continues to say that if, on the other hand, if you don't act according to my direction, if you don't depend upon me, then you will be lost. And the interesting thing here, the topic here is like we're talking about depending on Krishna, right? And doesn't mean that we have to do nothing, just let Krishna, I'm depending on Krishna, let Krishna do everything. But actually, the message in the Bhagavad Gita clearly is that we depend on Krishna, but we have to do our work. We have to do everything that we can to please Krishna. But the most important thing is that the consciousness in which this is done. And this is clarified when Krishna, in the next verse, he says that anyway, you can do whatever you want to do, but because of your nature, you will still fight. So the whole Bhagavad Gita Krishna is urging Arjuna to fight, but at the end he's saying, well, you're going to fight anyway because it's your nature. So what is Krishna teaching Arjuna? What Krishna is teaching him is to fight in the right consciousness. And what is to fight in the right consciousness? To fight depending on Krishna. Understanding that actually he is the supreme source of everything. He is the supreme controller. He is the fountainhead of everything. And that I am his servant. What can I do? I can only try to serve him. And this is the message for all of us. That, yeah, what can we do? This is the real test of our Krishna consciousness. Is how much we are depending on Krishna. And it's exemplified. Here we have the example of those who are not doing it, but we have so many examples. Like Narada Muni, he was cursed by Daksha, and Daksha basically he said, okay, you won't be able to stay in any place for longer than 3 days. And Narada Muni, how did he respond to that? He accepted this as Krishna's mercy. So many other examples are there. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was cursed that you will never experience material happiness. Jai, That's good. So similarly, the whole idea of the whole point of practicing Krishna consciousness is to be able to see Krishna's hands in everything that is happening. All the problems of life are resolved by this simple point. If you think about it, the maybe grudges, difficulty that we may have to forgive someone, or difficulties we may be dealing with right now in our lives. If we just depend on Krishna, bring Krishna into the picture, and try to act according to his direction, immediately the mind becomes very peaceful. We become satisfied. There is satisfaction there. And I'm preaching to myself, and I was so happy that I was given this verse, because for the last few days I was, doing my sadhana, trying to do it strictly, and my mind was restless. So restless. And I was thinking, well, what is it that I'm missing out here? I'm doing everything right. Am I depending on Krishna? I am accepting that even to be disturbed is also okay. We have to be enthusiastic, patient, confident, acting according to the rules and regulations, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. All the instructions are given there. And it all is all meant to bring us to the point of full dependence on the Lord. And then Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he is explaining, because this is actually the definition of a devotee, the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. What is the non-devotee depending on? He's depending on his own strength. He's trying to control the situation. I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. And as soon as we develop this consciousness, as I was saying at the beginning, we become, the whole wall of duality just goes on. And then the fight with the mind is just constant. And as I said, we find ourselves restless, dissatisfied, critical. We like this devotee, I don't like that devotee. Look how he does like this, he does like that. I don't like the way he always puts his shoes there, don't put the shoes on the shelf. Little things, all the mind, mano dharma, just completely, disturbed, not able to actually focus on the higher endeavor of self-realization, which is Krishna consciousness. So therefore, then we have, bringing Krishna into the equation and putting him in the center, then it will bring out all good qualities in us. And this is like Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita, what are the qualities of a devotee? In chapter 12. Yasman not vijate loko, lokan not vijate chaya, harsha marsha vajot beger, mukte yas sachame priyahais. One who is not disturbed by anyone, and who doesn't disturb anyone. Anapeksha suchirdak saudasino gataveta, sarvaramba parityagi yomadvakta samepriya. One who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, self-control. He's very dear to me. So Krishna is saying all these qualities, and then Prabhupada in the purport, he says that one doesn't have to endeavor for these qualities extraneously. And I always was thinking, what does it mean, that we, that we don't have to cultivate these qualities extraneously? But actually, as soon as we meditate on, and it's just simple things, it's like we're chanting japa. Hare Krishna, sometimes it's like a fight, with the mind, but actually, Krishna is a person, and he's responsive. He pays attention. He's hearing our prayers. He's hearing our endeavor, our struggles. He's conscious of all that. He's a person. He actually, Prabhupada explains how he's willing to bring us home more than we are willing to go home. So it's not like we are fighting, this battle alone. He's on our side. Sometimes we're chanting, I see sometimes the word is chanting Hare Krishna, it's like you're thinking, how Krishna is going to come anywhere near? It's going to be frightened, Because Hare Krishna, 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 it's like, okay. Actually, this is an activity of love and connection. Establish that connection in everything we do. So I was saying about the developing, cultivating these qualities. Like Krishna is saying that one who is satisfied with, always satisfied, understand. Naso chati na kanchati. He never laments. He never rejoices. Subha subha parityagi. He renounces auspicious and inauspicious things. It's not depending, like this, not depending on the ordinary course of activities. This is revolutionary. Krishna consciousness is revolutionary. It's a change of consciousness. And we can be practicing sadhana bhakti and be in material consciousness. I'm trying to bring this point that the whole objective of our practices in Krishna consciousness is to be Krishna conscious. If not, we're missing the point. And we are giving all these very extreme examples to illustrate the principle of how these devotees, they're dependent on Krishna. Raghunath Das Goswami, he was the son, of a very wealthy merchant. And then he gradually, first of all, he was getting money from his father, right? And then he was eating with Lord Chaitanya. Then afterwards, he was going to the Singadwara temple and he was begging there. Then he was going, excuse me if I get it wrong, but then he was going to the food distribution places. And Lord Chaitanya was so pleased with him because he was practicing. He was not, we generally, we don't need to, in one sense, like create a situation to practice dependence on Krishna, because it's plenty of it. It comes to us on its own accord. Yeah. But here I have the example of someone like Raghunath Das Goswami. He's creating trying to depend more on Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, he gave him his Gunjamala and his Govardhan Shila. And then later, what Raghunath Das Goswami he was doing, he was taking the refuse food by the cows and he was washing it and taking that. And Lord Chaitanya, he was so pleased with him that he actually went and snatched that prasad. I want to taste that nectar. I want to taste that nectar. Oh, and what is that nectar? The nectar of love. Same principle with Kolavesha Sridhar. We won't go into the pastime, also it's so beautiful pastime. But he had just a lota, like an old lota. And at one point, Lord Chaitanya, he said, actually, this Kolavesha Sridhar, he's cheating us all. He's not a poor man. He's the wealthiest. And I want to taste that wealth that he has. And he drank from that lota. Why? Because he was fully dependent on Krishna. He was complete akinchana. So it's not so much, even like here, it's not so much what we're doing externally in one sense, it's the consciousness and we were doing it. Arjuna, he was fighting in the battlefield and he was fully dependent on Krishna. He was pleasing Krishna. You have to become like a sannyasi, like a renounced person. In any situation, you can do it. And my understanding, even Sukracharya, still the way he's speaking, he's not speaking about Krishna. He's, if I should be like this, but it's still the same. It's a bit our own lamentation. Oh, if I would, only if I changed like this. But actually, it's not about changing the external situation. It's about changing the consciousness. And the devotee, he sees how the environment is actually teaching us how to adjust. Krishna is actually, orchestrating our lives. The expert judge of time and circumstances. So that we actually develop our, said it many times before, but I said it again, our spiritual muscles, learning to depend on Krishna in little things. Like I said, the extreme example, Parikshit Maharaj, he gets cursed. He's not fighting it. He sees it as an opportunity to surrender to Krishna. I always like the pastime with Vidura also. Also, an unfair situation, Duryodhana is chastising him. Oh, you kept son of a mistress. We should throw him out of the palace and leave him only with his breath. Duryodhana is telling Dhritarashtra, throw him out of the palace. Because Vidura was advising Dhritarashtra to return their share of the land to the Pandavas. And he's saying, Duryodhana is like insulting his uncle. And he saw Krishna's hand in that situation. And Vidura just left his bow and arrow outside the door and he left on pilgrimage. 38 years of pilgrimage. He never saw Krishna again. And, but he saw that actually this is an opportunity because I am, getting caught in all this politics and all this. Okay, go, let's get, it'll be good for me to go. And when Krishna was leaving this world, who was Krishna thinking of when he was leaving this world? Who are we supposed to think when we leave this world? Krishna. So when Krishna is leaving this world, who is he thinking of? Do you know? Vidura. So we just don't know when Krishna is gonna, manifest or make it obvious to us his reciprocation. But he's reciprocating all the time. We may not be able to see it. That's why we have to be patient. And this is the nature of Kali Yuga. What is the nature of Kali Yuga? Impatience. Mind is always restless. Constant indecision. Once again, this thing about duality. And we joined this movement because we had enough of it. We were so dissatisfied with material life. So what is spiritual life? Spiritual life is acting for the pleasure of Krishna in whatever situation. And see whatever is happening to us as an opportunity for surrender, an opportunity for showing Krishna our sincerity. Like Krishna, Prabhupada explains in the Krishna book, he says that the greatness of a person, you know that statement? It's a famous one, right? Anyone knows? How is the greatness of a person estimated? Prabhu. How he can tolerate provoking situations. Prabhupada writes that the greatness of a person is how he can tolerate provoking situations. But how can you do it without the foundation? And that's what this dependence on Krishna is a symptom of our surrender. We can go on and do things very, strictly in Krishna consciousness, and but if when it comes the point of actually being nice to each other, cooperating, not try to push others aside so that I get my own way, then what is the value of it? I mean, some value, of course, for sure, but it's not complete. And Krishna will make it, will bring us to that point, to actually remind us that actually it is for me. Krishna is saying, this is for me. It's not for you. It's not even for our purification. Like devotional service in the mode of goodness is so that I become purified. But actually, transcendental devotional service is for Krishna, even if I don't get purified. And all these pastimes are there, like the gopis, even like they're given the dust of their feet, collecting very efficiently. Even if we have to go to hell, Krishna will be pleased. Krishna will be pleased. So it's a challenge. Is it not a challenge? But actually, this is the natural, normal condition of the soul. The challenge is presented by our own minds. It's Maya. Maya is the one that is heavy. It's not Krishna. We think that Krishna is heavy. Sometimes, at least I do. But actually, the one that is heavy is Maya. When we don't do it, then, like Krishna says, you will be lost. I'm giving you the instruction. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is not like, in one sense you could say, he's not commanding, he's giving us choice. I mean, yeah, he has the right to demand, but he's giving us, the free will is there. I'm giving you my instruction, you do as you wish. It's your choice. And the point about dependence is that, like we're talking sometimes like, particularly when we come to preach to new people, you're losing your independence, I am an independent person. I bow down to no one. It's such a foolish idea. Who is independent in the material world? In England, people wear these T-shirts, I am independent. Remember when I was in book distribution, I used to say, how are you independent? Can you stop growing old? Can you stop getting sick? Can you stop dying? Can you stop going to the toilet? Can you stop blinking your eyes? We're being controlled by the material energy all the time. And not only that, we have all these, mental impressions that we think that are, is us, coming from previous lives. So actually becoming dependent on Krishna, it means becoming free. And Prabhupada explains this in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, connection with Narada Muni, how he's traveling all over the universe. And he's saying that, that devotional service is based on freedom. So therefore, we have this pastime, and this pastime is leading to what? King Yayati will be cursed. Just a little thing. This little misunderstanding between Sarmishta and Devayani, okay? She just put her cloth on by mistake. It's like someone sometimes takes your shoes. It happened to you? that you have the same shoes as someone else and someone takes your shoes? And it's like, oh, it's stupid. Can you not see that difference, you know? We become all worked up, but then you go and then you fight the person, and then from this little thing, wow, big problem. I don't explain what comes out. You're gonna see for the next few days, but eventually Yayati will be cursed to become an invalid, an old man, just for a little thing. So this is the material world. Just small. We become we overreact to situations, and we become hateful. We become, as I said, critical. And this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness and the great gift that Prabhupada is giving us. It's not the future, but even we look into our past through the eyes of Krishna, how he was in control then also, and how we can actually accommodate the sufferings and the troubles that we went through from the perspective of Krishna actually bringing us home, bringing us to him. And that's how the devotees in the Bhagavatam, they are able to tolerate all kinds of situations and remain faithful. Like Prahlad Maharaj. What kind of test he went through. And we're going to have to go through this, and this is all a preparation for death. Because the death, by the arrangement of Krishna, everything will fall apart. And all is going to be left there is our relationship with Krishna. That's all it will be left. That's the only valuable thing. Not everything else is meaningless, will be taken away. And again, at that point, we'll be able to chant and call out for Krishna with the full sincerity and connection, and accept our situation. So, just to conclude, the main point of the talk was in regards of this, the importance on depending on Krishna, both externally and internally. And remember, the external surrender that we practice is meant to bring us to that point of accepting Krishna's plan and act according to his direction. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Tagora Premanande. So we have just a few minutes. If anyone would like to comment or ask a question, you're welcome. Yes, bro? Is that mic there?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a nice class. My question is, we see in Bhagavatam, in Narada Muni explained it, just by practice Krishna consciousness, just 2-3 days, we can achieve perfection like this eternal consciousness, and this consciousness cannot be destroyed even in end of universe. And or we just bow down to Tulasi or chanting holy name is all freedom. How we sometimes we think, oh, I practice Krishna 10, 20 years, things go slowly. How to break this kind, how to see properly situation?
So the question is, why is it not happening in 3 days? Is that the question?
No, it's not this. Actually, it's happening in 3 days. But question is, somehow we have this consciousness is going slowly, but we don't see actually properly. Question is how to break through that kind, our mind, and how to get it, this fate that is actually happening in 3 days, but we don't see actually.
Well, the example is given there that when the plane is taking off, at the beginning you feel the speed, the acceleration, but then once it's on the sky and it's flying, you don't notice the speed. So we're making very great progress, and sometimes we may not be able to see it because the mind tends to either telling us that we are doing too much or doing too little. It's never satisfied. But we can see we can check with our peers. That's what the devotees are there for, to see how am I doing. It's so important. When did you ask last time, the devotee, how am I doing? When was the last time? Did you ask the devotee recently? Yeah. So that's how we we check, because we may be thinking that we are great, or we may be thinking that we are very fallen. It works both ways. And the devotees will give us the necessary encouragement to understand. But we are becoming Krishna conscious because the fact that we are, thinking of ourselves, like when we think that we are fallen, is because we are becoming more and more sensitive to our anarthas and our imperfections. They were there before, but we were not so bothered about it. But now it's like, I waste some time doing something wrong, and it's like, or I am rude to a devotee, and then we become very disturbed. So that's a sign. It's a sign of an advancement. Yeah, for Mike.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very, very much for the class. Prabhuji, we are discussing that we should get to the point of depending completely on Krishna.
Say again.
We were discussing we should get to the point of being completely dependent on Krishna. But as a sadhaka, as a practitioner, what stage precedes that? What stage will come before that?
What stage?
Will come before that. Let's say in a progression of our Krishna consciousness, we may reach some stage where we will say that, okay, now I have to start depending on Krishna completely.
Well, the moment that you begin following the process of Krishna consciousness, the moment that you begin depending on Krishna. Rajendrananda Prabhu, is that a comment on this question? Yeah, sure. Welcome.
Thank you for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhu.
We so often hear the quote of Srila Prabhupada that we don't have to endeavor extraneously to develop these qualities, but this question is really about, well, wait a second, I'm not there, and I'm doing it, but I'm not there. So the thought process you inspired me in, you referred to the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, so spontaneously thinking of Krishna is bhakti. When you're beyond the bodily concept of life, your consciousness is pure, you can be attached to Krishna, and you can always remember him. And if you're not there, then we follow the rules and regulations, and that's where the practice of this Vaidhi Bhakti helps us not forget Krishna. So my humble offering is that in relationship to that statement of not extraneously endeavoring, no, we have to endeavor daily to, you're saying, internalize this consciousness. And I was thinking, okay, what does that mean for me? For me, I'll just share with you, if I'm not praying to my spiritual master, if I'm not praying to Lord Chaitanya and all the, line of spiritual masters or eternal associates we have available in the Dham, in the scripture, etc. If I'm not doing that, then the consciousness isn't there. We're going through the motions, but we haven't really internalized it. So for a neophyte like me, it's all about praying and really asking, can you help me here?
Yeah.
I'm not there. Please help me. And that's what we hear those on the higher levels of pure bhakti, they're doing it. So when we take up that part, even in Vaidhi Bhakti, that's when it becomes more, at some point it will become realized, but at least we're practicing it, and we will see the miracles take place.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I meant to say when I was saying not extraneously means not outside the process of devotional service. That's what Prabhupada means by that. And like you very nicely expressed, we are doing our sadhana, but that element of prayer is there, of begging, that I need help. If that element is not there, then the connection is lost. That was my point. It's not, it's a gradual process, but we have to have that is adding that consciousness, that I need mercy, I need to connect. I need mercy ultimately. So that prayer, and like I was saying, the Krishna responds. he's paying attention to our prayers. And he's, you know, through our lives, we go through so many different perplexity, you know, we become perplexed by so many situations. That's the time we connect with Krishna. And then when the challenges come into our lives, like, you know, we provoke, material energy is provoking us. That's the time where we have to actually make that connection. That was my point. I don't know if it came across in a different... Thank you for clarifying. You know, extraneously is within the realm of devotional service. But I also wanted to mention that when we have that prayerful mood, when we are actually really begging for mercy, then all those qualities described of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita automatically manifest. So it's not that we don't have to cultivate that. We have to cultivate those qualities. We have to know what they are. Do you know what they are? Have you studied those qualities? Those purposes. We have to read those purposes continuously. It's like Prabhupada repeating. And one of the main threads there is equipoise. Equipoise in happiness, distress, heat, cold, fear, anxiety, fame, infamy, honor, dishonor, auspicious things, inauspicious things. Is not caught by the dualities of the material world. Why? Because of that point, of that prayer. Is it not? When we internalize, sometimes someone comes and does something to us, and it's like, wow, you know, it's like a barking response, you know. But then later on we internalize a little bit. Actually, I am the cause of this. This person is me with a different face. I did this to someone else before. Thank you, Krishna. Actually, you're giving me just a token reaction. Now you put me through this situation. Help me to surrender to you. Immediately, all those qualities described in the 12th chapter become manifest. That's the point I was trying to make. That ultimately that's the goal. The goal is not the qualities. But at the same time, those who have achieved the goal of Krishna consciousness, those are the symptoms. How do you know that someone is Krishna conscious? It's not by the dress. It's not by their position. It's by their consciousness. And that's again, I really like this point in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll repeat it, that Krishna is urging Arjuna to fight. But at the end he said, well, you will fight anyway. So what's the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita? Fight in the proper consciousness. So therefore, do devotional service in the proper consciousness also. You know, whatever our services is, we may be teaching in the school, we may be cooking, we may be assisting the devotees, whatever it is, do it in the proper consciousness. And that will please Krishna more than anything else. Thank you. Hare Krishna. It's over time, so you can, thank you very much. You can leave if there is some, you can ask a question and they can. Yeah, you can ask. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So my question is, Prabhuji, Prabhupada mentions here about Kapota Vritti, Uncha Vritti, you know, which is very high realization. So I'm just asking that for us householders who are living in city life and you're serving in the temple, so how is it applicable for us, and is it even a stage that we should aspire to achieve?
Well, basically, yeah, we have to work, we have to maintain the family, we have to make arrangements, right? So we cannot just, you know, this is recommended in the case of the priest, or in the case of the guru, that he's not depending on his disciples for his maintenance. So it's a big discussion in terms of Varnashram, but practically speaking for us, the principle is that we have to depend on Krishna. You may be working as a householder, you may be doing, you know, whatever profession you may be executing, but what is the consciousness behind? It's the same principle we are making here. What is your consciousness? Is it to please Krishna? Is it to actually bring your family up in Krishna consciousness? Is it to become free from anarthas? Is it to go back home, back to Godhead? Or is it to create a facility for my own enjoyment? So it's just a matter of consciousness. There are many examples of grihastas who are very renounced. And you can be in the profession of being even a vairagi and not be renounced. A subtle sex life can in the form of fame, renunciation, gain. So it's a matter of consciousness. We have to refine our consciousness through the process of sadhana bhakti. So not to minimize the external practices, for sure, we have to do it. But add the consciousness. And Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the same activity that causes bondage becomes the cause of liberation. And he uses the example of someone who have a disorder of the bowels because he's taking too much milk. And what is going to cure him from the disease is the same milk treated by tamarind, which becomes yogurt, right? So you become free from the disease. So what is the disease? Material consciousness. What causes? Material activity. What is the tamarind? What is the tamarind that turns the milk into yogurt? What is a tamarind? Consciousness. The same activity doing in the right consciousness cures you. Same activity doing in the wrong consciousness causes bondage. It's a subtle science, a spiritual science. But we have to get down the externals very much, for sure. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.